Hi, my name is Tom Graham, and welcome to Being Heard. I am here today with Jay, and I'm committed to every voice being heard, even my own. And so, welcome, Jay.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about we get a little bit about yourself and what you're up to? And
Sounds good. I do a number of different things. I do residential and commercial building inspections. I do home restoration, um, and that is through business. It's EA inspections and home services, or
Mhm.
EA stands for ex animo, which is Latin for from the heart. And I work with two nonprofits, one based in the States here and one based in Haiti, alongside with a friend of mine that lives down there. With The nonprofit is called COTP, Children of the Promise, and we focus on in their culture. If you are born with a mental handicap or a physical disability of any kind, then they would consider that your family is cursed. So they leave the child on the side of the road, or something something like that. And we take in the worst case scenarios, situations, and we nurse them back to health, and then we set them up for adoption all around the world. And it's a great organization, and we've been doing mission trips down there for quite a few years now. So it's always a great contribution to be there. The other one is Curcio, Unidos in Cristo, UEC, United with Christ, and we set up retreats. Um, the technical term would be a basic course in Christianity, where we set up weekend retreats at churches all over the state of Minnesota
Mhm.
that sponsor us. And we take people through this overwhelmingly loving weekend that is just filled with so much grace that people come out different. They are changed, and their outlook, their perception, and their perspective are changed in regards to life, themselves, their husbands, their wives, their children's, uh, and just everything in between. I mean, it's a really beautiful experience. And
Awesome.
my commitment for the world is that everybody knows the love and grace that God has to offer each and every one. So that's what I strive for.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for both your service to people and your service to our country.
Yes. Thank you. I
I know
didn't
you're
mention that, but
yeah, and I didn't want to step over it.
I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And so, what we're going to talk about today is the 7P's, and the 7P's are passion, perseverance, perspective, priorities, perseverance, purpose, patience, and prayer. I had a moment there where I had a little slip, and
Mhm.
what I'd like to do is just have a conversation and ask you questions. So I got 7 questions. First one's
Mhm.
about passion. And from your perspective, how do you take actions to increase your passion?
Mm. How do you take actions to increase your passion?
Yeah.
I think that that starts with awareness of what your passion is.
Okay.
Um, accepting that passion, and then the willingness to do it. Um, I believe that willingness is not just a thought process. I believe that it is an action that you also need to take. You can think about willingness all day long,
Mm-hmm.
but when you put it into practice and you say, I am willing to do that, to fulfill on that willingness, you actually have to produce an action. So I think that willingness would increase my passion.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't, I threw you a curveball. You didn't see that one coming at all. And you just
Yeah.
crack, you hit it real well. So the next one
Yeah.
is perseverance. And here's my question, what is worth so much that you would push through anything to have?
Me personally, or what I believe the rest of the world is like, because those are two different views.
Let's go with you.
um, I want people to feel the love and grace that God has to offer.
Awesome.
Um, that's oftentimes much easierly said than done. And it can oftentimes also be a very difficult conversation with individuals. Um, I do a lot of work. I've been sober for 15 years, and I do a lot of work with alcoholics and drug addicts. And for my personal experience, I hadn't come to Christ to know him and accept him as my Lord and Savior until I was about 8 years sober. I used to be a pretty hardcore atheist, actually. And then I went to a UEC weekend, actually. And when I said yes to Christ, I took communion for the first time in my life. My life changed in an instant.
Wow.
My whole entire mind, thought process. I mean, I couldn't comprehend in my brain the way that I used to think before. Um, Instantaneous, like a snap of a finger. And it was astounding. I mean, I was astounded. I mean, I actually thought I was literally crazy when it was happening to me. I
I
even told
shouldn't
my wife,
laugh.
I
I
was
apologize for laughing.
like, no, you're fine. It is hilarious because I remember telling my wife that I was going to check myself into the mental hospital because I felt like I was crazy. And she was like, no, that's God. That's God. And I was just filled with joy. And I had never felt joy in my life before. And it's a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. So if the answer really would be is that I would want everyone to feel joy.
Awesome. You are just like, this is the nice setup. The next one is perspective. And so I've got these questions. I'm asking the same questions. I wrote them in my notebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking the same questions. So you ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
Would shifting your perspective change your level of joy in the moment?
Would it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think oftentimes the world is so focused, and even myself sometimes, we are so focused about all the things that are around us and what's ahead of us and what's behind us that we're very rarely focused on what is happening now and in the now. So I think changing that perspective or having a paradigm shift in regards to that um, would bring people closer to one another. I mean, they wouldn't be on their phones all the time. They would put their phones down and have a
Right.
conversation. I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you do too, when we when we were kids. Well, first of all, I didn't have a cell phone, so I don't remember a time where I was not outside playing with friends or kids in the neighborhood, riding bikes, all that, all that jazz. And now you're, you were back then you were grounded from going outside. Now you're grounded from staying inside, and that to me just baffles me. Um, and a lot of that has to be towards technology. Um, but I think if we have like a perspective shift there, and we change our perception on how we view technology, utilizing it as that it is a positive benefit, but to not do necessarily encourage it to fill our time when we are with one another. That can be vital. It does make things easier in the world. Don't get me wrong, emails, phone calls. I mean, geez, when cordless came out, it was like that changed the game. You could exit your home and sit on your porch and talk on the phone. You didn't have to be connected to the wire. And now it's obviously anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's no limitations, and I think we strive to have no limitations, and we want it now. And 9 times out of 10, we want it at our fingertips, and it's there. And so because it's there, well, we can have it, you know. Um, but I think we miss out in the relational aspect of being with one another and being in the now.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
The next one is priorities.
Mm.
And so I think you kind of catch on these questions are not necessarily straightforward.
No. they're they are slightly, yeah. They're yeah.
Okay. Are your priorities setting you up for creating more success in joy? Let me get this right. Are your priorities setting you up for success in creating more joy?
I would say 50-50.
Yeah.
Um, there is need for improvement for
Okay.
myself personally.
Okay.
Um,
There's no judgment. It's not, there's no right or wrong.
no, no, I hear you. No issues there. I'm an open book, so I'm not too worried about sharing where I fall short. um, I know I'm very adamant in regards to progress and progression and consistently working all of my principles on all my affairs, so to speak. So I think this is uh, a good subject to talk about for myself. Um, Recently, a lot of things have changed for me in regards to my marriage, focusing more on that. So it alleviated a lot of priorities for me and responsibilities that I let go,
Mm-hmm.
so I could focus and spend more time with my family, my wife, and um, I recently just had 5 deaths in 2 months in my family.
Wow.
So it put in perspective for me um, a lot of that time now, spending that time with family, enjoying that time with family, and kind of rehash my priorities instead of, when I'm sitting waiting for something, a piece of wood to dry, or a wall to dry, or for a furnace to kick on when I'm doing an inspection or something like that, instead of turning on, I don't play it, but for example, like Candy Crush or something like that on my phone, I could text my sister or my brother and be like, hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
um it's things like that I could improve on, because I can easily get distracted, and then I get focused on something else. Very, tends to be like an ADHD mentality of just like, I have like 25 things going on at the same time. Um, I can focus on all of them, um, but only half-assed. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not 100%, and there's definitely improvement that needs to be done there. So that's one thing that I'm personally working on.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next one's purpose. Is your ladder up against the right wall?
Is my ladder?
Mm-hmm.
I see. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, in some aspects, I do. Um, but I feel I should be more involved in regards to being of service, being part of the church. And it's oftenly misunderstood, and misconception in regards to what the church is. It is a place. It is but ultimately it's really the people are the church, and that's whom I want to serve, and that's who God wants me to serve. And there has been, as I said, I've had a lot of influx, specifically this last year or two, I would say, that my priorities have been slowly shifted to be focusing inward in regards to my marriage, and working on that. And God talks about you can't build your house on sand,
Mm-hmm.
um, as it'll just simply wash away. Um, so you have to have a solid rock foundation, and that starts with your marriage. If you're married, um, it is a God orchestrated event. Um, and ultimately, I mean, God created it. So to honor your marriage is to honor God. And that's where I mean, I used to be outstandingly awesome at being of service for everyone else, and doing all of these things, um, for everyone else, um, except for my wife or myself. And I thought it was great. Um, and I think a lot of pastors actually come to this conclusion or fall short to this, that that their wives need love and attention too. And so coming to that realization, like I was saying before, I think that has been my primary focus. And to get on the same track and the same page with Julia is important to me, and it's primarily priority number one right now,
Mm-hmm.
in my life. And I think it's important to also add that that doesn't mean that the other things stop. It doesn't mean that your service work stops with others. It doesn't mean you stop being there for others. Um, but that there is a balance that is created. Um, and God helps with that. He can help with that. You can ask for guidance and wisdom in that regard, and he can help you with that. And for myself, he has
Yeah.
thus far, and I have no doubts that he will continue. But
Yeah.
it is a process, and dying to self on a daily basis is important.
I'm hearing intentionality.
Yeah, I got to turn off my radiant heater. Can you hold on a
Okay.
second?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. You got the heater off. Thank you.
Yeah.
All
So,
right. Well, the next question. Are you okay with the purpose? Are we
yeah, I think so.
anything more to say about that?
I mean, I think there's yeah, I mean, for me, there's more that I would like to do, but having the perspective that I can't right now, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is humbling in a way. Um, once you get past the difficult part of that acceptance,
Yeah.
so and then that willingness is always there in everything and anything.
Yeah, that's what you said to start with was the willingness, and that drives your passion. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that around.
Mhm.
So the next word is patience.
Mm.
And this one, are there areas where you don't have patience?
Yes. That's the that would be the second thing that I'm working on in regards to my marriage is the patience. Um,
Yeah. Do you see any patterns evolving?
negative patterns.
I didn't say
No,
positive or negative. I was just
yeah,
creating.
no. Um, I mean, often as human beings, we obviously tend to dwell on the negative, um, but try to focus on the positive or take that negative and create it into a positive.
There you go.
And um, I think that's important to articulate for people, um, that you can that failure or when you fail or make mistakes is not a negative thing. It is an opportunity, um, to be a better human being for not only yourself but for others. And I think we miss, I'll say, the big sale point there in regards to failure, um, and even success. Rather, I mean, a lot of people define success differently, but it's really all about specifically about your perspective on how you measure success, um, and no one else's. So I think in regards to the patience aspect, it's more about listening. Um, and you know more about listening when you're not talking. um, and really hearing the another individual. I do this very well with other people, um, but I've never been very effective until the last year or so with my wife, and like really hearing her and where she's coming at. I Where my lack of patience would be is that I'm watching her work through it, and I'm the type of individual that when I recognize it, I create action immediately. I jump on it to change it, not even necessarily to change it, but to calm that character defect or that characteristic of myself, to invoke progress and to improve myself as a human being for myself and for others. And because I don't want that around, I don't want that negative aspect about me. Um, we talk about perfection, um, and I'm by far nowhere near perfect, nor do I try um, to give off that I am personally. I think, but by acknowledging that there is perfection, i.e., Christ, um, we have something to strive for, to be more like. And I think that's important to add in regards to the perfection aspect, because I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, and there's a whole lot of negative, you know, context in regards to perfectionism. And but you can take those things and easily turn them into positives. And when I'm watching my wife work through something during in a conversation, I have in the past not had patience with it. I'm just like, okay, yep, that's awesome. That's awesome, great. Um, and I'm waiting for the breakthrough acknowledgement from her for herself, because I can present the answer to everybody, but that literally does nothing. It literally does nothing. Um, you want them to come to the answer themselves. That self-realization produces that self-awakening, that spiritual awakening, spiritual experience, so to speak, if you want to say it that way. But um, it creates and opens up one's mind in a dramatic fashion, um, to possibilities and just a boatload of creation. And it is truly a beautiful thing when you see somebody get that. And I thoroughly enjoy walking other people through it. But with my wife, I struggled with that. I did. Um, and it was very difficult for me to accept at a time. There it was. But everybody learns at different paces, and they have different strengths. And so the patience became about acceptance and meeting her where she's at, just like Christ met me where I was at. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
And yeah,
I
it's been good.
I hear this authentic love for Julia.
Yeah,
And it's just like I hear it, I feel it. So thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
And the last P is prayer.
Mm.
And this P I kind of slanted a little bit. I'm just telling you right now. So do you use prayer to acknowledge you're proud of something for yourself, grateful for something, desire something, or what you love about yourself?
I use prayer for request, praise, glory, acknowledgement, gratitude. Um, 9 times out of 10, though, I would say that it is not about me, because it's not. I think that's really important to understand. I'm acknowledging that God created it, or God made it happen,
Mm-hmm.
or that God used me as a tool to make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
because I was in the right place at the right time. Which could also be argued that that was also orchestrated. Also, that I was meant to be there, which I've had countless situations like that. Starting the Bible studies at Denny's or Perkins at 2 a.m, and bringing waitresses to Christ, or friends of mine from Landmark in the ILP program. And it's a beautiful thing, and that all comes down to willingness, to answer the call when it comes. God asks who will go. I will. I'll definitely go. And I think prayer is a huge, huge part of that. Even in regards to healing. I've had a very extravagant life in regards to, not extravagant, so to speak, but dramatic. Traumatic is more of a better fit of a word. A lot of what people would view as negative things have happened in my life. I've been injured multiple times. When I was using, I overdosed 4 times, had my heart stop beating. Just a lot of negative things, full shoulder reconstructive surgery from overseas, getting hurt overseas. And then I had a bad TBI, traumatic brain injury, where I could not, I've had too many concussions in my head, and I couldn't walk or talk. And they said that I would never walk or talk again.
Here you are.
And, yeah. And here I am. And all of that was before I knew Christ. And it was overwhelming to me that he had been there the whole time, regardless of situation or circumstance, regardless of how many times I said his name in vain and screamed at him about how he wasn't real. Like, it's astonishing. I mean, it's astonishing on how negative I was about God, or the believing in a God. And he forgave me. to this day, I still believe that he shouldn't have, but he still has. And, Christ didn't come here for the sinless. He wasn't sent for the sinless. He was sent for the sinful. And that's me.
Me too.
And I'm grateful for that. I really am. And I thank him every day for it. And prayer is so important to me personally because it brings me in conscious contact with God. And just like we're on a walk through nature or walking up a mountain or whatever, working on a door or whatever it may be. I say these little 3-step prayers, or relieve me of the bondage of self in this moment, please, because I'm about myself right now, and I need not to be. And he always answers. I mean, he puts it in perspective for me. Because I don't believe that we are strong enough to do it by ourselves. If we were, we would be doing it. It is a choice. God gave us the power of choice in regards to everything. And that is where willingness comes in. You have to be willing to say yes. And when you do, it'll change your life. It's a beautiful thing. So
If you are.
thanks, Tom. So are you.
So that's my 7 questions. And I really appreciate you taking time and creating the space to be with me and talk through all this stuff. And is there anything you'd like to be acknowledged for?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'd like to acknowledge you.
I'm going to acknowledge you.
Well, I'll acknowledge you first. How's that?
That's fair.
I appreciate that you're doing this. I appreciate that you're saying yes to something that is filled with love and grace, and allowing God to do and grant his mercy. And because we all need it. And it's something that is, I feel, is lacking in the world. Um, Specifically, so much so that people have forgotten what Christ has done for them. And I think for myself, even just in this experience, talking through these P's, that it has so consciously reminded me, which is what we all need. So I thank you, Tom.
You're
It is,
welcome.
it is really awesome. A gift.
You're welcome. And I receive your acknowledgement. So thank you. It's one of those that's accepting an acknowledgement is not always something I've done.
Yeah,
And so thank you.
you're welcome.
And Jay, I acknowledge you for your commitment to being a space of love and acceptance of people, no matter where they're at. And it shows up like obedience to your heart, your soul, obedience to God is how I see it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Obedience is often sometimes very hard.
Well, on that note, I'm going to stop right here.